I appreciate you joining us, and I know before our camera started, we were having a good conversation kind of discussing, I think, success of new agents, right? And I think you've been a pretty cool story because, the last really year and a half, you've been impressively building your business. So I guess start at the beginning for someone who's watching. What originally got you into real estate? What was kind of that moment like? When did the bug kind of come out a little bit?
Sure. I'm 36 now, but when I was 21 years old, I saw so many different people going into real estate,
sure.
And I always wanted to do it, but I just never knew how. Right? If you don't know the information, you don't have that knowledge, and you're not actively seeking to go get it, you're going to remain stuck in the same spot. And so you basically have to change your mentality to go get what you want. And instead of looking at things as a problem, you look for a solution. So a lot of people they'll be faced with the problem and they'll be like, hey, I'm encountering this, I don't know what to do, this is a problem, and they'll sit there and they'll focus on complaining about the problem. And what I do that I think separates me from a lot of people is I focus on solutions. I go, how can I do this? I don't go, I can't do this. I go, how can I do this? And it's a much different philosophy that I don't think a lot of people have. And so younger, I didn't know that. Okay. And as I matured, it's something that I kind of changed because I realized it was a weakness. And I'm a big believer in emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. I think it's huge working with people.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, and so they have a great book out there. It's Emotional Intelligence 2.0. And you read through it, and there's 4 core philosophies in there. But one of them talks about you being able to identify weaknesses in yourself and focus in on those weaknesses and make them better. And so if you're always trying to continuously improve yourself and reduce your self-waste that you may be having, then you're going to become better at everything. You're going to have a higher drive. And so that's what I did over the last 10 years until I got to that point that I was at that, how can I state mentally?
Interesting. And now, because that was 26 to 36, right? That kind of your age of when you said, hey, maybe there's some things I can change to kind of get what I want. What made you get to that point, I guess, would be the question. Because I think, you and I both, we talk to people all day long, right? And I think it's a noticeable difference when you talk to someone who says, okay, here's maybe what my life is, but most of these things I can either improve, or maybe I have control of, or hey, maybe I don't have control of this, but I can have control of A, B, C, D. And I think usually when you talk to those people, there's like a couple moments when it clicks for them, or like you mentioned, maybe reading that book or having that mentor. So was it just one day you said, I can kind of control these things, or I guess what?
It was a build-up.
Yeah. Okay.
It was definitely a build-up, but I think there were 3 main catalysts. One, so I've been in leadership for 12 years.
Sure.
I got tired of making other people money, running businesses and bringing them hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings running their business. I said, why can't I just do this myself? And then just not being appreciated for what you're doing. And so I made a change, right? The second catalyst was a book I read called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I think a lot of people know about. And if
Absolutely.
you don't, go look it up. And then the third catalyst is I got a mentor, right? He was one of the first people, I think, with Real People Realty. His name's Kelly Burke. And he looked at me and he goes, what are you doing with your life, man? That's pretty much exactly what he said to me.
Word for word, just put it out there pretty bluntly.
Yeah, that's how he is. That's Kelly. And he goes, go get your real estate license. You could be doing so much better. And I said, okay. And so I made it my life for 4 months. I took, I think it was 6 or 8 week accelerated courses.
Jeez.
And then I studied for another month and a half. And so I passed my final exam on the first try, passed my state exam and federal exam on the first try.
There we go.
And that was, I think when I got my license, it was October 2021.
Absolutely, yep.
I think that's when it was. And I sold a house a month later.
There we go.
Because I started going into my sphere of influence.
And so you were working full-time while getting the license,
I was.
right? So 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours, what was the total time you were putting in career-wise? Because that's always a question I think people have when they say, okay, I'm going to try this.
Yeah.
I think they always have maybe some fears of, can I manage that workload? So
It's a choice.
yeah.
It's really a choice. It's how much of your life do you want to dedicate to something? How serious are you that you're going to commit to changing yourself for the better? And I think I was leadership.
Yeah.
I was working 50 to 55 hours a week, if I remember correctly. Passed up from more than one promotion, just got tired of it, because when you go from spot to spot to spot, and every single time that you get a team, you bring that team from the very, very bottom of the barrel to number one in the network, and then they go, hey, you're really useful, and they switch you with someone that's failing. Why am I going to continue to do that?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so I apply all this to myself now rather than somebody else. I'm not going to make somebody else money anymore. I'm going to make myself money. And so it's really, really important to me to continue on that drive.
Absolutely. So you have that shift, you go in, you complete real estate school, accelerated, all in. 30 days, you go ahead and you sell a house. Now that, as you know, is not the normal for most people, right?
Yeah, I think it was like 35, but maybe 40. But still.
Extremely impressive, yeah. And because, we were fortunate enough, so we have right now, at the time of this recording, about 950 agents, and it was, I want to say 2 summers ago, we worked with the third most new licensees in the state. And I think it's, you see some people that blow it out of the water right away, like yourself, and then you have other people that maybe it takes them a bit. So I think something that people might say when they're watching it, people who maybe they're setting up their own obstacles for themselves, was that deal set up when you got your license, or was that you had no idea this deal was going to come to you? You went, you got the license, you study hard, and then you immediately start prospecting, or how did you kind of get that first deal for people?
I think that in any industry that you're in, whether it's real estate, whether it's some other type of sales or leadership or warehousing, wherever you are, it's all about relationships. And you're going to, as a person, especially someone in sales, you're going to do everything that you can to build those relationships. Because if you don't have the relationships, you don't have anything. Because all we have in this world is people.
Right.
And if you don't know how to treat people correctly, you will have nothing. Because most of the time you don't own anything, right? You're providing a service.
For sure.
Yeah. And so there's a really, really great book, another really great book I read. It's called Servant Leadership in Action. And I read through that entire book, big fan of that book. And it's talking about how you as a person can not just lead people, but you do things to have them view you as a servant in their eyes, even though you're leading them. And so it turns the normal boss mentality into a really big leader mentality where people, you don't have to tell them what to do. You can ask them, or you can present a problem and they volunteer because they want to do good by you, because you are treating them very, very well, and you build relationships through servant leadership. And my first sale was a result of a servant leadership relationship. Yeah.
Just you did something else for them outside of real estate, or what? I guess kind of elaborate on that for some of the people.
I mentored them at work. I mentored them, and they would come to me about every sort of advice, and every single time they came to me with an issue, I wouldn't give them the solution. I'd walk them to the solution. And then if they had something they needed a shoulder to cry on, or if something was going bad at home, I would sit there and I would listen and practice active listening skills to make sure that they understood that I'm not there just to say, okay, man, that sucks.
Right.
I'm there to say, I got you. I got your back. I'm here to listen. I'm here to try to help you. And that's a big difference I see in a lot of people. Most people are in it for themselves. And when you move from being in it for yourself to helping others and making 100% about servant leadership or serving your customers rather than just being in it for the paycheck, you get ridiculous referrals.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I think too, because one of the things we always talk about, I think, here, and we always see is once you've really been in the business, usually about 5 years for most people, you can kind of see how good that service is, because usually they'll have about 70% of their business is referrals, right? But I think you really kind of hit the nail on the head, because just like you, I really, really love self-improvement, and I like the psychology behind people, right? Because I've always felt like, to your point, if you can really truly care about people and relate to them, and there's a gentleman on the internet, you might have heard of him, Jocko Willink, who does a ton of different books on leadership and was a Navy SEAL. And so you talk about someone who's leading, in my opinion, probably the highest level or one of the highest levels, right? You're going to war, you're managing all these different emotions. He always talks about that, where he'll say he'll talk to his team, and when he coaches people in business, hey, where are you at? Okay, what's your goal? How can I help you get there? And he then also telling them, here's the team's mission, here's what we do, but then them knowing that he's really going to bat for them, and they're all working towards the mission, and goes through the psychology. So I think you really made some important points there, that when people usually get into real estate, they may not realize that, okay, this is sure a business if I'm walking someone through a transaction, but really I'm trying to be the hub of information, and you're leading them, right? I'm leading them through this deal, but I'm also this hub of information, and okay, why are you guys moving? What are you guys looking for? Oh, you need X, Y, and Z. I have a full team of people. By the way, we don't stop at this one deal. I'm going to be your expert for the rest of your life. You got something going on with your lawn, call me, right? I have all of these different things. So that seems, for you, from what you're saying, what's really kind of was the key to getting this thing snowballing for you.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you bring up Jacku, because I read his book, Extreme Ownership.
You read that one?
I did. Yeah. And in that book, it's exactly what you're talking about. It's that high-level individual accountability, but also the servant leadership, even though he doesn't call it that in that book. But he basically surrounds himself with a bunch of leaders that are okay to grab hold of something if it's not doing well, and everybody trust each other. And you cannot have a relationship, you can't have a transaction without trust.
Well, and I've always found, too, isn't it interesting when you look at highly successful people in all of these different areas, there's like all those common themes. And I think it's cool the way you're working with your business, of you're bringing that extreme ownership and that servant leadership, and really taking care of people into every single transaction that you're doing. Yes. So you do that first transaction, right? Now, does the stress alleviate a little bit when you get one under the belt? Because, I'll talk to new licensees, and I'll talk to experienced agents, and usually a lot of them say, hey, I knew I could do it, but when they actually help someone, they're like, whew, okay, that's actually happened, right? I wasn't full of it. Did you feel that, or was it just business as normal?
To me, it was about taking care of people.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a story. I'll go, when I went to my accelerated classes, it was online, and I did these accelerated classes. The first question that the instructor asked was, why are we getting into real estate? And everybody just write down, raising their hands, going down the comments of the online class, was going, the money, the money, the money, the money. Because 2021 was COVID time. That was the best time for the market that we've seen in years, for buyers at least. And prices were going up, interest rates were low, and everybody's just talking about the money. And I was the only person that said, because I enjoy helping people. And so it's very, I think, critical to have that mindset. And if you don't have that mindset that you're there for your people, you're never going to really push forward. And so it was very easy for me to do my transaction.
Sure.
And so if you're a first-time transaction real estate agent, whether you're on the seller side or the buyer side, don't be afraid to look at the other agent and go, can you help me? I've never done this before. Because a lot of times they won't try to take advantage of you. Yeah. They'll be like, yeah, I'll help you. I've been there. And so you just reach out to your peers. One of the things I did when I first got started, and I still do it, I did it earlier this year. Anytime I'm running into like a little bit of a struggle, I'll call up my peers. I'll call up Aaron Tidmore. I'll call up Kelly Burke. I'll call up Chris, I forget his last name, from Wilmington. Yeah. And I'll be like, hey, what are you guys doing? And they will tell you, because even though you're their competition, they want you to be successful. And they'll be like, well, it'll be slow here, but you'll get this and you'll get this and you'll get this. And everybody does something different. They all have different approaches. But you can also always seek to educate yourself. There's a really, really great Facebook group that I encourage all new agents to join, and it's called Real Estate Masterminds. And it's filled with seasoned and rookie, pardon my term.
Sure, no, yeah.
Real estate agents. Some people have 20, 30, 40 years of experience doing it, and other people had their license for a day. And they get in there and they ask questions. Questions like, I'm a new real estate agent. How do I generate leads? And there'll be hundreds of comments on every single one of these posts. And you just go through and you review the comments. And it'll be like, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And it just goes on. And so you can get just amazing amount of ideas just by engaging in your community, engaging with other real estate agents.
Well, and I think that goes back to your point too, of I think just generally having a nice personality and trying to pay it forward, and I think that's one of like the really huge advantages we see nowadays with the internet, of how there's so much information at our fingertips, but you'll always see people that maybe they don't take full advantage of it. Because I remember, so my dad got into the business in the 90s, and so Mike and I, our entire life was around the business. Like, we were the kids in the office growing up, so we always make the joke, we've literally been doing this 20 plus years, but we're in this cool spot because we're on the younger side. It's like, not only do we understand that mindset of someone who's been doing this for 2 decades, but also we get the new side of the technology. And when we got started, there wasn't those options, right? You had your cold calling, you had your door knocking, you had your mailers, and the MLS was coming in a binder every single week, and you'd had to pay tens of thousands of dollars to go to like a marketing course, and maybe you got like one idea. So I always tell people nowadays, I'm like, if you just use your resources, this thing's got a heck of a lot easier. And if you actually take care of people and you're a good person, because like you mentioned, there's so many Facebook groups, and we even have one here at Real People Realty, where a lot of times when I'm talking to people, I'm like, if you guys just get involved and have conversations with people who are producing, you'd be shocked the amount of things they share with you, because a lot of people, to your point, remember maybe when they were new and they want to go ahead and really engage with you. So
be humble, ask questions.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing that a lot of people sometimes talk about is routine. So it sounds like you've made yourself an avid reader now and ebook listener. What does a typical day look like for you at this point in real estate? A
typical day, I mean, it goes into my night sometimes, honestly. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll check my email, I'll check my text messages, because I never know when somebody is going to message me. I do a lot of scouting on Facebook, or prospecting, we would call it. And I'm in so many different...
With friends and family, or just different groups?
No, different Facebook groups. Yeah. I mean, you can get into all the Facebook groups in the area, and there's constantly people that are looking for like a rental or looking for a house.
And how many people are usually in these groups? 100, 200?
Hundreds.
1,000?
Yeah. If you have all these successful Facebook groups, I was like, I'm going to start my own.
Huh.
So now I have 3 different Facebook groups. I have Illinois Home for Sale in Will and Grundy County, which is growing at about 20 to 30 members a week right now. Yeah.
Oh, that's impressive.
And every single time somebody joins one of these groups, they have to answer participation questions in order to be approved. And so the 3 questions that I ask are you looking to sell your home? Yes or no? Are you looking to buy a home? Yes or no? And then the 3rd one is, would you like me to connect you to a mortgage specialist? Yes or no? Right? So if they want to be in my group and they want to see all the listings that other agents are putting in my group and see what's available in this group that's constantly growing and has like 7 to 15 posts a week, then they have to become my lead.
That's awesome.
And I'm getting posts in there all the time now. I mean, it's going to keep growing, and I'm going to have a 4,000 people group here in like a year or 2. And yeah, if I want to do something, and you know what, it's even better than that. You can use all these different groups that you're a part of. You can use the groups that you've created as a selling point on any listing presentation you have.
For sure. And I think when you do that, that's where you really build a lot of referrals. and you really grow your business quite a bit. So I think for you too, when kind of this strong servant leadership mindset and all the things you were looking to accomplish, I know you met with Reed when you originally came on board here. What drew you over to our brokerage? What was that first meeting kind of like? How did everything go? What made you want to land up with us?
I had Kelly Burke when I got my license. He goes, "I'll sponsor you to Real People Realty." And I go, "Why do I want to go with Real People Realty?" He goes, "One reason. You can either pay 25-30% of your commission to the broker every single time, or they'll take $375.
There you go.
And I said, "I'm a business guy. I have my own P&L for real estate, okay? I know everything that I'm doing and how much it's costing me versus how much I'm bringing in. That's logically just made sense." And then I got here and I spoke to the team and I saw how willing they are to help people, the training that they had, the broker support that they have, and the fact that we have so many tools and so many resources that are available to us. And I said, why would I not want to be part of this? Just because there's so much internal servant leadership that you guys push to the new agents or seasoned agents that are joining the company, whether you guys realize you do it or not.
Well, thank you. And it means a lot to us, because I think one of the things when we wanted to start this brokerage, and of course Mike and I's dad started the company, he was at a franchise back in the 90s, and he was paying, I believe it was $2,000 a month. So I don't know if Mike ever told you that. So our dad was given, it was 24 grand in the 90s, which today is probably like 40 or 50, right?
Yeah.
And then he was on a 95.5, and it was crazy because there wasn't even the internet, so he was trying to build out his own website, and one of the first people to ever do like an IDX feed and all this money in his marketing. He's like, I can't really get a call back. It takes a couple days. Yep. If my managing broker does call me back and say, hey, try to figure it out on your own. He's like, why don't I start this company where it's going to be based on, to your point, service, but we're going to try to give people most of their money back, not because we're going to compete on price, but it just makes sense for people. We're like, if you treat people the right way and give them a high compensation, high value, one of two things happen. Yep. If they want to do a couple deals, they either hit that goal quicker, they refer over more people, and it's a great loving environment. Or if people like you who want to grow your business, that's thousands and thousands and thousands more dollars, which literally changes lives. And we've seen all these cool stories over the years of people who are in another career field, and maybe they're making 20, 30, 40 grand, which there's nothing wrong with that. But for them, they couldn't feed their family, and they get into real estate a few years later, they're making six figures, and you get people that cry. So it means a lot hearing you say all that. And then we've really tried over the years to add in more technology, more tools, more training, more resources.
Yeah, I'm going through right now and finishing up all the training that I originally didn't do, because I did the basic training. I wanted to get going. I
appreciate the honesty, because you usually have
I wanted to hit the ground running, and I was like, I'm just going to do the basic training, the stuff that they told me that I needed to do. I had no clue what I was doing, and so now I'm going back through, and I'm like, why didn't I watch all this before? And it's because it's so helpful. I mean, the one I watched not too long ago, I think it was like maybe 2-3 weeks ago, I watched one, and he actually walks you through, Mike Johnson walks you through how to build a business plan.
Yep.
Right? I was managing a company for 12 years. No one ever taught me how to make a business plan.
See, isn't it crazy? You think those would be things you'd learn. But
yeah. And it's so critical, because remember when we were talking about accountability?
Yeah.
A business plan allows you to have accountability to yourself once you set your goals on paper.
I think it's a good way to put it too, because a lot of people, speaking of budgeting and stuff, you've probably seen Dave Ramsey online, right?
I don't think so.
He's really, really big in financial literacy, and his thing was he went bankrupt in his 20s, had a lot of debt leveraged in real estate, and then the bank called the loans, and so he went with a principle and a philosophy where he said, he was Christian and read the Bible. He said, hey, I'm going to have no debt. And then he went through and kind of rebuilt his business, and worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. But the reason I bring that up, one of the things you said, where he says a lot of people think a budget is limiting, but it's actually liberating because you're like, okay, here's what I know I can do, here's the fun section. I think it's the same way with your business. If you say, okay, here's the hours I got to work it, and here's my business plan, and it's okay to relax and have fun, versus if you don't have that structure, now you're just stressed the whole time, feeling like you need to be working 18, 20 hours a day, and there's times that we do it, but I think it's to your point, liberating if you can have that structure versus kind of putting the clamps on. And I think to your point, the ancillary partners as well, right? Because you said a lot of very nice, incredible things about our company, which truly does mean a lot to us. And I think one of the other things that you've done a really nice job is, Mike, my brother, really oversees a lot of the ancillary sides, and producing branch manager over at Cross Country Mortgage from us. I think you guys have made a phenomenal relationship, and he absolutely loves you. I was saying that off camera. He probably likes you more than he likes his own family, legitimately. And you're like that probably doesn't mean much if you've had siblings, but on a serious note, though, he says nothing but positive things about you, and he says that you guys talk so much when you have a transaction in a good way, and you guys kind of come up with the game plan of, okay, here's how we're going to present this offer. So can you talk a little bit to maybe the viewer out there that says, I don't really care about, the loan officer, or, my preferred suite of people doesn't really matter. What do you kind of say to those people?
I learned when I was younger, my dad actually taught me this when I was a teenager. He goes, your success in life is governed by the people that you surround yourself with. And what does that mean? That means that if your primary group of friends, you are going to be the average of your social circle, because you're going to have positive and negative influences. If you are surrounded by people that don't make good moral decisions, it's the best way for me to put it.
Sure.
You're not going to make good moral decisions unless you are just that independent. But everybody has that peer pressure. Everybody has that influence from their peers. But if you surround yourself with good people and you build a good team for real estate, then you end up in the scenario where when you get a review, and reviews are very, very important. They tell you how you can improve or what you're doing good that you could do more of. When you get a review, it shows. And I have 2 instances of this in the last week. I've gotten 2 separate reviews. I've gotten nothing but 5-star reviews this entire year from every single client that I've serviced. Every single one of them has given me a review of 5 stars.
That's the most important thing on anything you said.
Yeah, and seriously. They all have the comments. And in the comments last week, Mike was the loan officer for the transaction for my buyer, Heather, and she put in her review how incredible the team was at Cross Country Mortgage with Mike being the loan officer. And then when my listing sold yesterday, after we got funded, I sent the review request out to Lakeisha, my client, and she wrote a review. And in that review, she wrote how amazing the attorney, Kathleen Cunningham, is. Not just about me, but about me and my social circle, me and my peers, me and my team, right? So it's incredibly critical, because if you have a team that doesn't really care and you don't have that communication with your team and you're not going out of your way to bridge any communication gaps,
it's going to fall apart.
Everything's going to fall apart because you're going to not be synchronized, right? If you have 2 waves clashing against each other, you're not going to go anywhere. But if everything's going the same direction, you're going to get there faster.
Absolutely. Well, and I think to your point too, it's they probably notice how much you care when you say, okay, here's what I'm going to do for you, right? And then every other person in the transaction's exact same. Here's what we're going to do for you, and everyone's holding true to your word. They're like, this is a white glove, 5-star experience that's being brought to us, and the entire time it's been exceeding the promises, exceeding the expectations the whole way through with the deal.
Yep, you always go above and beyond. I had a boss, his name was Jeff Starkey, a long time ago, and he looked at me and said, Chris, always under promise, over deliver.
That's awesome. Now, I think couple more things, and we greatly appreciate you coming on, and I know everyone watching appreciates it, because the way I learn is by looking at successful people and saying, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of this from here, a little bit of this from here, what's all the common themes, and then now I got my package, I'm ready to go, right? Same way if it's sports or whatever someone's doing. For you right now, I would say, where do you want to be next 3 years, next 5 years? What's kind of the goal in your business? And I was going to ask, how do you ensure you're getting there? But of course, it's the service. But where are you looking to go? And I guess, what are some of the other things you're adding in right now that's going to ensure you're getting there?
I think it's really important always to have astronomical goals set out there, but you're not going to overnight get to those astronomical goals. And if you put that astronomical goal out there 3 years from now, you're not going to get to it. What you need to do is work yourself up to that point. So yes, you can have this really, really big goal for 2 years from now. Mine is next year, actually. By the end of 2024, December of 2024, I want to be one of the top producing agents in the company. And that's my astronomical goal. But there's little tiny goals. You have to take baby steps towards that goal. So I know that I actually saw something on Real Estate Mastermind, the group that I was talking about earlier, and it said go on to the RPR resource that MRED provides and look up anybody that has a lease expiring right on that website. And then you can use that as your cold calls. Be like, hey, you really want to renew your lease? Why don't you put some money in your own bank for a minute? And
you've added that into your offensive game plan right now, people.
That's the next baby step for me. The next baby step after that is I'm going to start reaching out to probably expireds. The next baby step after that, I'll probably reach out to FISPOs. The next baby step after that, I think I'm going to focus on figuring out the client base that I have and what specifically they're looking for in their dream home, and just have an Excel spreadsheet for their dream home for each client. And this will be a lot of work, but I think it's really going to pay off. And then I will find targeted areas that meet exactly that. And then I will send out mailers and door knock to those areas going, here's my buyer. You interested in listing?
Yep. It's kind of going to them and saying, hey, here's what your home could be worth. I got a buyer lined up. Would you be interested in having this conversation?
Yeah, because then you end up with double transactions. And so you take these baby steps to your astronomical goal. And it's important to have not just that leap, but the steps in between.
Absolutely. Well, and I think too, as you take that next part of your career, there's a ton of good stuff that we have here that I'm excited to talk to you about. I don't know if you've spoken in depth with Jimmy yet, but Jimmy, his first year in the business, did about 20 transactions. It's about a decade ago. And then he actually went and bought Tom Ferry's program, which, I'm sure you know Tom, but Tom hits on a ton of the different things you're talking about. And Jimmy did so well in the program, he actually was offered an opportunity to be a Tom Ferry coach, right? So kind of be a part of that ecosystem. And Jimmy spent quite some time coaching agents in all different states. And he was managing a different office back at his hometown in LaGrange. And then we brought him on at the beginning of this year because he saw kind of the cool culture and the family atmosphere and the things we're doing. He said, I want to be a part of that. So he's our director of agent success over here and on our managing broker team. But he'd love to talk to you because he's got a ton of like the vision and the mindset you have of how to go out there and play offense and serve people. He's got a ton of scripts that would help you. So
absolutely.
I'll definitely connect the two of you after this one. And I think you made some good notes there where it's those little baby steps every day. And I think a lot of times people think, hey, I'm going to put off doing like the ordinary today and then tomorrow I can make it up and just do something extraordinary. But it's not really how it works. It's, every day I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm going to do what a lot of people call the ordinary stuff. I'm going to put the boots on the ground. And then when you add up, 100, 150, 200 days of doing the ordinary stuff, now I'm extraordinary and you can't catch me. So I think that's cool how you're kind of lining up all these different steps and having your business plan and saying, okay, I'm going to get to this point next year where I'm going to be one of those top producers at the company. And you got a great roadmap ahead of you. So
want my name on the website.
We'll get it on there for you. Well, you'll be on there with special guests on the podcast, so we'll get you on there for that. And I think kind kind of closing remarks or things you want to tell agents, or any tidbits you want to share with someone maybe who's watching this and they've been on the edge of their seat, watched this the whole way through? You have any closing remarks for them?
Take care of yourself, but also take care of your people. Right? Your people are the most important thing to you, and if you don't have your people, you don't have anything. And that is the core of your business. Build the relationships. Use those relationships in a positive way to create more relationships, and your business will drastically expand.